This episode of Thinking Tackle is in association with Daiwa Infinity Rods.
Welcome to the second show. Should we call it the Andy show? No, let's call it Thinking Tackle, shall we, mate? Fresh from the success of the first show, Mr. Reynolds is in again. We're still at Maison de Lac Bleu in France, and Andy is showing us the way. What's it feel like, mate?
It's feeling good, actually, mate. It's exactly like the other big one I had. It was it held long on a long line, very deep, could hardly shift it. And then finally it sort of decided, oh, well, I might go for a swim in towards me. So, but yeah, it does feel good.
Right, I don't want to rush you, but dinner's in an hour and 10 minutes. All right?
Well, I'll do my best. Oh, that was across a fin.
Oh. Just like the last show, what we're going to do in this one is show you lots of tips and tactics for fishing these sort of holiday venues in France. These are pressured fish, you know, they're not giving themselves up. I've already done the first 48 hours without a single bleep. And he's obviously on a few fish and he's doing it right. But there's loads more things that we can show you, so when you come abroad to these sort of places, you can get the bobbins moving. Right, don't want to break your concentration, yeah, but do you want to swap this Calypso coffee for that rod? Go on, there's Tim Rear in it.
Have I got time to think about it? No. Oh dear.
And this is the rod that's produced all your bites, isn't it?
It has.
First couple of days.
Which is quite weird. Well, we were actually thinking it might be the middle rod on this one, because there's been a couple of fish roll over that middle rod, and I'd have put money on if one was going to go, it would have been that. But no, this has torn off again.
I have to say, you have done the impossible. You have made this swim look horny. Because although you came out before me in the draw, I would not have chosen this swim for all the tea in China. bit of yellow belly in the murk. Oh. Right, I'm gonna.
Oh, there goes the back lid.
Yeah, well, we've got one or two of those left, so it's not a problem. Okay. Come on, baby.
I'm gonna draw him in.
Come on, baby.
Come on. Oh, come on.
Gotcha!
Come on!
Put it there, my son.
Cheers,
What
mate.
a start.
Cheers, mate.
What a start to the second show.
£42. Wicked.
It's just before tea time, and the fish have decided it's tea time as well. It's the right-hand rod, which is off the baited spot at about 130 yards out, straight in front of me. It's a little snowman presentation. Very fruity baits on the bottom bait and the pop-up of the snowman. And a little tiny stick, which probably, to be honest, wasn't there when I got the bite, because there's so many small fish in here. It does feel like a good fish, this. It's moving a lot of water. Come on, baby. It's not a very big tail, so but over here that don't mean anything. In this show we're going to talk about some of the hardware that we use, the rod that I've got bent into this fish at the moment, you know, what preparation you need to do for these sort of trips to make sure that you're not undergunned, and also we want to make sure that you don't go out and spend a load of money that you don't need to just to come abroad, because it doesn't have to be like that. If you choose your venues properly and you don't go on a lake that's too big for the tackle you've got, you can still get amongst the fish. Right, getting closer now. Come on, baby, come to Papa. Come on. Come on. A few more inches and you are mine. Yes! Get in! Wicked. I don't mind saying the pressure was really on to get a bite. And it's a good fish. Mid-30 by the look of it. Below average for this complex. And there it is, 31 1/4. Fantastic looking fish. Oh. Beautiful set of scales there, down towards the tail, real recognisable one, and a small one for in here, believe it or not. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's nice to open your account. Now I've had a bite on that rod, that's going to go back out on the same spot again, and hopefully bring some more action. I'm going to keep the other 2 rods still on the bait. This one was slightly off the side of the bait, and then my 4th rod that I've paid the extra money for is going out by that island behind me. So we should get this beautiful fish back. Well, that was really nice to get off the mark there. I have to say, I do put myself under a lot of pressure to catch fish as soon as I start a session, but I've just worked at it, kept baiting the same spot, and the bites have started to come. I started off with that 31, real dumpy fish. I had another 31 during the night and a 26 as well, which are small fish for this particular water. On the complex, this has got an average of 40 pounds. This particular lake has got an average of about 38, 39. So the ones I've been catching are the small ones. But I want to talk you through sort of the hardware that I'm using, the rods and reels and everything. Start off with them infinities and my long range set, my 3 3/4 pound test curves. And as I've said before, just because you're going to France, you don't need to go out and buy a complete new set of tackle, but you don't want to be undergunned when you go there. So pick a lake that suits your tackle. Don't go on a great big lake if you've only got 12 foot 2.5 pound test curve rods, because if the fish are out in the middle, you're not going to get to them. So 13 foot 3 3/4, and then the reels are big pit reels as well, loaded with 16 pound Pro Clear line. I'm not using a leader. This is really good line, really supple, cast really well, and breaks at about 19 pounds. So I can't snap that on the cast unless that's been damaged by something. I'll be able to whack that out 140 yards with a single hook bait on. I try not to use shock leaders if I can, because I think the leader knot can get caught in the rings, and that's when you crack off and leave a rig out in the lake. So if possible, I try not to use a shock leader. If I was going for absolute maximum distance here, I'd probably use the extra tough shock leader material in 25 pounds, and again Pro Clear in about 10 or 12 pounds on the reel. So moving through to the buzzers. Buzzers are always used in a session, very sensitive. You've got volume adjustment, sensitivity adjustment. A thing a lot of people do wrong with these is they have them far too sensitive, so they're going off all the time. I have them down as low as I can, so they only go off when I get a take. And the bobbins are very lightweight bobbins. I use the lightest bobbins I possibly can, because I've seen from the underwater footage that the heavier the bobbin you put on, the more you're lifting the line up off the bottom. And to stop that happening as well, I've got a safe zone flying back lead on and a back lead as well. So I'm keeping everything pinned down on the bottom, and the reason I'm using 2 is because the bottom out there just slopes down gradually to 5 foot to where I'm fishing. There are no lumps and bumps on the way out there. It's just nice and flat all the way out. So when the line goes down to the back lead, down to the bottom and along, it's going to hug the bottom all the way along. So there's very little chance of me picking up the line when I'm playing a fish. Back onto the back crests here, they just go in really tight. If I push them in, that holds that in really tight. Now I could use those for snag fishing as well. The rod doesn't get pulled forward when I get a take, but when I pick it up, it comes up nice and clean. Now if you're going to do one of these trips, new line is important. You don't have to get new rods or anything. Make sure you've got plenty of hooks and everything with you, because they're the sort of things you run out of. I've been to South Africa before and run out of hooks, believe it or not. Bearing in mind I make them, that's absolutely shameful. So it's all the little terminal tackle bits and pieces that you need to take plenty of, because you will run out. Our last little tip, I've got 2 landing nets with me. Now that might seem ultra confident, but if you've got 3 or 4 rods out and they're all fished on the same baited spot, and then you get a take on one rod, there's every chance you're going to get a take on one of the other rods. Now if you've just netted a fish and you get another bite, you obviously need another net or your mate right next door. So I've learnt from that before, where I've had one in the net already, been playing another fish and had to land 2 in the same net, and when they're big uns, that's really hairy. So I've got my other net, is over in the sedges there, and what I'm basically doing, it's what I had to do last night when I had the 31. I just waded out into those sedges, stood on the sedges and then netted the fish over there. The other thing about having 2 landing nets is if I get a fish kite left, I've already got a net over there. If I get a fish kite right, I've already got a net here, so I'm not searching around for a landing net, because that's the times when the fish fall off. When you take your eye off the ball, you're playing one, you look round the other way, that's when they come off, and there's nothing worse than losing a big one right in the edge. So that's the hardware that I'm using. Don't go out and spend a fortune if you're going to come to these places, but make sure you're not undergunned.
Well, I'm into my 7th fish on Piraway. It's been a pretty hectic night, a 45 and a 49. So join us after the break and we'll see whether we can get the 7th one in the net. Welcome back. We're still fighting this very, very strong Piraway carp. Like the others, it's thumping around on a long line, but unlike the others, now it's under the rod tip, it's gone crazy again. And it's still low in the water, very deep. Not really got a good view of it yet. Woody's waiting with the net. I was dying to get this one in the net. But it just keeps taking line. Won't give up. Very strong fish. As they all are in here. Bit of activity during the night. As I said before, I managed to fluke a 45 and a 49. And Bell over the other side, one of the guys over the other side, he had a 45 and a half. Very nice fish apparently. So it looks like it's picking up during the night. Those are the first fish that have come out at night on Piraway on this visit. Oh.
Mate, looks like another good fish.
Oh. It's going for it. Yep, feels and now looks like another nice one. I don't know whether it's best to see them or not, really.
I reckon it is, mate. It's not really for you to say, but for Andy to get 7 bites in 3 nights fishing, we're not even on to the 4th night's angling. It's pretty mega on this place. I mean, 10 bites in a week's extraordinary. He's had 7 already, and we've got 4 nights to go. So God knows what's going to happen.
Fingers crossed it continues.
You had one on your middle rod, didn't you, mate, finally?
Yeah, off to the left of the island. Yeah, that was where we saw the fish rolling. A couple of fish rolled last night. Oh, and this fish is just coming up.
This is a massive, massive carp. That looked huge.
It did look.
To put it into words, the 50 pounder Andy had, Dan thought was a 30 pounder in the water. This one looks every bit a 50. Oh my lord, that's massive.
No pressure.
Sorry for you religious folk out there, but it's hard to...
Okay, Woody, I think this is it.
There she goes, Wood. Push
You
your
ain't
net
got her
out,
all.
mate. There she goes.
Yes, come on.
They're so hard to get in the net, them big fish. Mate, that is
That's a nice fish.
enormous dom.
That's a nice fish.
Mate.
That could be 60 pounds, I think.
I don't know.
Oh,
It's
I don't know about
big
that.
50.
58. 58 and a half.
58, yeah?
Yep.
Good
Skills. Good skills. Put it down, my friend.
Cheers, mate.
And I'm still beating you by 6 ounces on personal best. Thank God.
There's still 4 days.
Oh, there is still 4 days. What a beauty, look at that.
Oh, mate. That is an awesome.
Those 30s at Mercer's
Awesome.
are going to seem minuscule from now on, aren't they? Hey?
Yeah. That is an
That's it, all the way
awesome
down.
looking
Yeah.
creature, isn't it?
Splendid.
Awesome looking creature.
Hey, Trev. Pound and a half of 60 pounds.
How big?
58 and a half.
You'd never tell.
What an incredible thing. An incredible creature. Oh,
Yeah, baby.
most incredible creature. Oh, thing that dreams are made of, this is.
Andy, give me a look, mate.
And it still gives us something to aim for. That magic 60.
Andy, one more, mate, one more, please. Lovely.
Look at me, mate.
Look at the camera, baby.
Mate, he's wicked.
Okay.
Hold him there, mate, hold him there, that's beautiful.
Go on, Ali.
And swing it, baby. And away she goes.
Gosh.
Oh, how about that?
Good skills.
Theatre of dreams.
Okay, well, it's getting towards the end of our week now. I'm on Genetries Lake with Joe and Mr. Harris. Different results from the two of you. So, Mr. Harris, first of all, what have you had?
I've had three. First one's £32 mirror. They've all been mirrors. £32 mirror, 27.4 and 49.8. 49.8 was actually the second fish as it goes.
Right, nice.
Yeah.
And what would you say you've learned from being on here?
Definitely cast at showing fish.
Right.
So out of the three, that's what's happened. When the 49 pounder was based like a 49 pound market float. Stuck his head out twice, looked at it, thought I put a bait on that, stuck a bait on, just about a cast, come out a third time in the ripples, and I hadn't even stuck it on the rest. So I was playing that line, give it a bit of slack, kept tightening up, rod tip pulling round, thinking, doing it again, catching it up, done it again, in the end, swam down, hit it.
And it was on.
49.8, yeah.
Nice.
So definitely
It's
cast
got to be the quickest bite, isn't it?
Definitely.
Got
I've still
to be.
had both hands on the rod, I hadn't even touched a bobbin yet, I was just playing that line. Like, so.
Mental. So cast at showing fish?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. And if you were going to start on here again next year, what would you do?
Well, first of all, I think I'll find out where the boys were the week before, see where all the bait's going, because they tend to be on that bait for a lot longer before they'll move on to yours. Like,
Right.
Have a good walk round, see if you can see any fish, anything showing, not fizzing or anything like that. And then once you have got your swim in the draw, then check out the water you've got. I mean, as I say, I've got a bay over there, I can walk around, check on my spots and everything, so it's all good.
So keep your eyes skinned,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Don't just sit in the bivvy on the beers.
No, yeah. It's easily done though, that's the thing.
And Joey?
Well, I sat in the swim down the end there for about 5 days and just nothing showed up. I thought they would, but it seemed like a lot of them were holding up along this bank round here.
Right.
So I had to move in on them, you know. I couldn't do it too earlier on because it was sort of a bit close to these lads. I mean,
We've got three on here, haven't we? Glenn's behind us, who's done really well. He's had 5, hasn't he, now?
I think it's more than that.
Is it?
Yeah, 5 or 6,
yeah,
I'm 40.
Might even be 6.
Yeah, the rest are all 30s, aren't they?
No, and a couple of 20s.
Right.
Dunno.
And that all started when the wind started pushing this way, didn't it?
Definitely, a new wind, they definitely move on it, and it's a cold wind as well, but they've
Yeah.
still pushed on it.
Yeah, I
It's
think it's because the lakes are all so shallow, they just get pushed around by the
Yeah, I
wind.
mean, it's 2.5 freeze up where I am all round the bay, and it definitely deepens up. This is the bowl area as far as I know. I spoke to Sam last night.
Right.
So they obviously moved into that on the new wind, but I don't know where they are at the
I mean,
moment.
it is deep around here, but I mean that was a bitterly cold northerly wind.
Yeah, it was-
you
it
wouldn't
was nasty.
normally you wouldn't think the carp would be on it, but they definitely moved down here.
Yeah. So how would you start next time then?
Well, basically, I think I knew there weren't any fish there from the start, but I thought they'd move in. Turns out they didn't. So if you're not on the fish, go and poach your mates up.
Excellent. All right,
Push in the
gentlemen.
middle.
Thank you very much for the info.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We're around on Nerf Lake now with Lowy and Wayne, who've had a few fish between them. So first of all, Wayne, what have you had?
40 mirror, a 41 mirror and a 35 mirror.
Nice. So not a
Yes.
bad batting average at all
No,
then.
that's right, it's
Cool.
not too bad at the moment.
And what have you, because you fished the lake last year and had quite a lot of fish, didn't you?
Yeah, I
so
did, yeah.
what have you learnt this year compared to last year?
At the beginning of the week I put quite a bit of bait in,
Yeah,
and I fished on that for 2 days, nothing.
nothing
So
at all.
I'd say not to pile too much bait in.
Right, so on
on
this
my-
particular water,
Yeah, all my bites been coming off for singles.
right, so you're just whacking a single bait and
Yeah,
that's how your
that's
fish
it,
have
yeah.
come. Right, okay. And next year, if you come back to Maison next year, what would you do differently?
Fish a different lake,
Yeah,
yeah. For
Yeah.
a bigger fish,
for a big one.
for a big one.
Right, you've heard what Andy's been catching
Yes,
and you want a bit
yeah,
of
I
that.
want a piece of that.
Yeah, I think we all do,
Definitely.
mate. I think we all do. And Lowy, what would you say you've learnt from this year?
Beginning of the week's obviously bad because the weather was a bit bad. The weather's gone cold now.
Right.
More of a chop on the water, but
And the Moon Man was better as well,
Yeah,
wasn't he?
not going into that.
But there's a thing about the moon phases that at the start of the week the moon phase was apparently better, and it does affect how the fish feed. I mean, Andy seems to have been consistent all the way through, so he's turned the Moon Man on his head. But and next year, what would you do differently next year?
I would fish different lakes. I fished it for 3 years now, and it's
Right.
Yeah, trying up one of the other lakes. I had a 50 out of here now, so I'm happy.
All right. We've had a 50, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's about right.
Cool. All right. Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Thinking Tackle. As promised in the first show, what I'm going to do now is go through different ways of combating the crayfish or the poisson char, which are little tiny catfish that swim around in a lot of these lakes. Here we've only got crays. The poisson char are even more of a problem, but I'll show you the first way of combating it. If you look in there, that's one of those extender stops that we've talked about, and that's basically just been pulled inside the bait so the cray can't get it, because what they like to do is they like to actually pull the hair stop out of the end of the hair and then pull the bait off the hair. God knows how they do it. I've never actually seen it happen, but a lot of the time when you're winding the bait back in, sometimes some bait will be left but the hair stop will be gone. So that's a little trick that they're up to, and that will combat that, the little extender stop. What I've also done with that bait is I'm using a dumbbell there, which to the fish may appear more like a bait that's been crayed, so a bait that's been out in the water for some time. So that's a good little trick to start off with, dumbbell shaped baits and extender stops. If they're really, really bad, this is the next one. It's basically a big version of shrink tube. It's very, very thin walled and it shrinks down a lot. So it's quite a bit bigger than the boilie to start off with. And literally I'll shrink one bit round the middle of the boilie, then put it on the hair, put the hair stop on, again an extender stop, and just pull it inside the bait, and then I'll put another little tiny slither around it and shrink it down again. So you've actually got shrink tube over the top of the hair stop, so there's no way they can get that out. Now you've only got little tiny bits of exposed boilie left and they will get chewed away, but if you're left just with that centre bit, at least there's something still out there, because some of the places that you fish, baits are only lasting in the water a couple of hours. Now it's no good if you haven't got any bait on the end, so if you're worried about having this plastic, don't be. It's really smooth, feels just like the bait anyway, and the fish can't tell the difference. So that's if they're a real problem. The next one on is the old faithful plastic. You remember from the first series I went fishing with Gaz Fairham. I've never used a bit of plastic corn before. He caught a load on it, so I've started using it as well. And what I've done with these is just added a little bit of pineapple flavour to them, just to flavour them up a little bit so they're a little bit more attractive. But that on its own will work. And providing you haven't got lots of nuisance fish in the water, you won't get bothered at all. And that will sit out there until a carp comes along and picks it up. So that's the next little trick. And finally, the old-fashioned way, it's a bit of netting just stretched around the bait, twisted round really tight, and then just tightened up around the top there, if I can show you that, with a little bit of bait floss. I've just tied a slip knot in that and then pulled it round, cut the bit of netting off and just burnt it with a lighter and pressed it down flat so it's all nice and neat. And then I've gone through with the boilie needle and pulled my extender stop back in, and that's it done. And if you've got poisson char in your venue, this will stop them completely. Now some people say that the carp can feel that roughness and they'll eject the bait as a result of it. I haven't found it. I've caught loads of carp on that type of system, and I'd rather have a bait out there and give the carp the chance of knowing that it's got netting around it rather than having no bait on at all. So if you're going to these sort of holiday venues, take something like this with you, because if you get problems and you've got nothing to combat it, there's no point being out there if you've got no bait on the end. What I'm going to do now is give you an interesting little tip for getting your lines back out on the spot if you've cracked off or got snapped up during the session without the need to actually cast back out in the swim. And sometimes I use this if I'm getting there just before it gets dark and I haven't got time to cast all the rods and get them next to the marker float. This is an interesting way of doing it, and it makes it even more accurate. So at the start of my fishing session, I've whacked out the marker float. This is a new one called a drop zone marker float. It's hollow. This is like a clear prototype. They're going to be in green when they come out. It's very, very buoyant and very easy to see. You can see you've got a great big flight on the top that makes it very easy to see even at distance. Out where I'm fishing, it's just flat as a pancake everywhere. So I've just gone out as far as I can possibly get bait to try and create a baited spot further out than anybody else is fishing. So that's gone out there at the start of the session. What I'm going to do now, I've laid the rods out on the floor and I've opened the bail arms. So the rods are upside down, bail arms are open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk this out with the rig as well. So I've got the rig there and then the float there, and I'm going to walk the two out together. When this one's already clipped up at the distance that I've decided to fish, float's already clipped up, this one's not. So I'm going to get to a point where that's going to go zing tight, and then I'm going to drop that lead next to it, walk back to the rods, clip the fishing rod up, and then that's clipped up at exactly the same range, because once I've found my spot with the marker float, I've wound it down to the bottom again, and I've got the rod in exactly the same position as where I'd finished my cast, and then I've clipped it up. So if I clip this up at the same distance, I cast the rig out, it hits the clip, the rod's in the same position, and it falls in almost exactly the same spot as if I was casting it during the day next to the float. So let's get that walked out now. It's about 120 yards down there, so let's get it done. I'm not actually going to have the rods with the clutch going because that twists the line. I'm just going to walk it out with the bail arms open so you don't twist the line, and you want to be careful where you're walking it so that nobody's going to walk through the lines or anything, and you're not going to go through brambles and get all the line caught up. But I've done this sort of day and night on most venues, and you can always find somewhere where you can walk it out the right distance. Right, there we are. So this has now hit the clip, so that's nice and tight. Just lay the lead right next to it, and if you can, it's quite hard here so I don't think I'm going to be able to push it in, but if you can, just literally stamp the lead into the ground so the lead doesn't move. And then what I'm going to do is walk that back, and I'll tighten up the other rod, not moving the lead. Just be very, very careful to tighten up any slack, put the line under the clip on the reel, and then I'm going to walk back to this point. So it takes a bit of time to do it. Might take 20 minutes, half an hour to do all three rods and the spot as well. But once you've done that, you're exactly on the money. And it means if you only get that float out just before it's got dark and finds your spot, then you can get all the other rods at exactly the same range in the dark. So let's go back and get it clipped up. Right, well the two are in exactly the same spot, so I haven't moved the lead. So that's that rod done. What I'd do is repeat the other two rods exactly the same, clip them up, mark them, walk them back out again so the line goes on nice and tight. If you don't do it tightly, the first cast you get too much line come off and get a wind knot, which makes the whole thing useless. So I'll do the other two fishing rods and then I'll do the spod. So we'll do the spod in a second, and I'll show you that it's got to be clipped up at a slightly different range to the fishing rods, and I'll explain why in a minute. Right, now I'm going to drop the spod ever so slightly short of where the float is, probably a couple of foot short, and the reason for that is when the float hits the clip or when the rigs hit the clip, they're going to drop back towards me in the water like a pendulum. So what I want to be is roughly a third of the depth of the water short with my spod, so 5-6 foot deep, about 2 foot short, because the lead is going to hit the surface there and then come back down and end up on the bottom there. So I want my spod dropping the bait where the rig is. So that's the right distance. I'm going to go back now, I'm going to clip it up once I've tightened up carefully, and then once I've clipped it up I'm going to mark the line again with a little tiny bit of tape just in front of the butt ring, so if it comes out of the clip in the night and all of a sudden a bit of tape shooting off the rod, I know it's come out of the clip and I can wind it back down to the butt ring, clip it up again, because sometimes it does come out, and if you're spotting in the dark and you're going past your mark, you're dropping bait where there's no rig. So I'm going to go back now and get that clipped up. Right, I'm just going to tighten that line up, just gradually, so I don't move the lead. And while I'm doing that, let's have a look around the complex, because some of the other boys have been into some fish today. Let's have a look how they're getting on. What's it feel like then?
Feels very good. Another one of those slow plodding runs. I dropped one in the night and it felt actually a much smaller fish. It was like banging its head a lot and shooting around, and so that was the only saving grace at actually losing one in the night. But no, this is totally different. This is like the others again. It's
yeah, you know all the 60s fight like that, didn't you? Banging around, shaking their head and that.
Shut up.
Like Catherine, I'm not bitter.
Yeah, I need you. I really need you.
Right, do we want any of these out of the way? It's gone over the top of the middle rod.
It's gone over the top of the middle rod, which is
Do you want the other rod like sort of down there? against the edge.
Yeah, if you could perhaps, we might be able to net it in here as it's gone over that one. So
yeah, if I put that one down there,
pick the
down
left-hand
that
rod
edge
up
there,
and
yeah.
move it right
I
the way
won't move
down.
the lead, I promise.
No, just move it right down the margin, mate, and then we'll be sorted. I mean, it may well drift back across the other rod, but that's a good example actually of using those back leads, able to play the fish right over the top of the other rod, and that one's still fishing. Across the dorsal again, on one of its fins. Always a heart-stopping moment.
I can twang the line for you if you want, every now and again.
Well, that would be
To do
great.
the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, those sort of moments.
That's just boiled on the surface.
Those sort of moments I could do without. Well, that's a first actually. It boiling right out there. Normally they've been keeping really low, right the way to the rod tip, but that one's just boiled.
Thank you very much,
About
Mr.
20
Gibbons.
yards out.
Very kind of you.
Still very slow and deliberate. Not picked up any speed at all.
Carp, mate, so fat, he can't swim fast.
Is it dragging on the bottom drain?
Yeah.
Tiny little head shake every now and then.
Oh, he's a good one. Come on, baby. Yes! In you go. Another beastie.
Pretty looking fish.
Another beastie. It's a crazy
French
carp that's deeper than it is long.
Cheers, mate.
Again.
For netting it.
Pleasure, mate, you know. No charge. How big?
49.5. Amazon beauty.
Look at me.
New PB, £57 on the money. Come on. Super, that's what it's all about.
Don't open your mouth, Bill.
That's it, mate. £57 of that chunk. Have a go on that.
How you feeling, Bill?
With my hands.
Alright.
And everything. I love you. Beep, beep, beep. Come on. Oh, baby.
Don't have some there, mate.
One more.
The open mouth shot comes out.
That'll do. Go on, bud.
Hang on, Bill. Keep it there. Kiss it again, mate.
The Jack Hilton.
Kiss it again. Do a Jack Hilton.
Do the Jackie.
Keep it there. And again, mate. And again. One more time. Hang on. It's not focusing. That's
My
awesome.
darling.
Let me get a wide shot with the cameras. Hold it up.
She's gone.
Hang on.
Come on!
Right, I've got a little bit of French gold. Oh, come here, baby. To show you. Just taking on the middle rod on a bloodworm. Oh, come here, baby. Bloodworm dumbbell. About 120 yards out. And there she blows. 41.12 of stunning Maison mirror carp. Nice to get over the £40 barrier. Oh. An average fish for this lake. There's fish 20 pounds bigger than that swimming around at the moment, which we're after, and we've still got 3 nights to go. God, they're heavy. Oh, I'm gonna have to put him down.
Middle rod this one, yeah?
Yeah, this was a middle rod, this one. This was out towards the other two, the gap in the islands to your right.
Fantastic.
It's just been threatening the fish all the time.
Well, that's it. There's been a few crashing out that way, so
So I've put one over there.
good stuff. Nice fish,
Here we
mate.
go. Oh, lovely. Lovely. It's a nice way. Put up a nice fight, this one. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Slow and ponderous.
that's what we like.
That's what we like. Lovely. 45.10.
Well, I just went down to get Mr. Clark to do some pictures, and he had one.
isn't it?
Yeah. Pucker. As the owners have said, it started to hot up as the week's got on, although the temperatures are much cooler now than the start of the week. The fish have not been affected. Bell's just had a 45 out of Piraway. We've just had these two, 40 pounds 4 ounces and 36
Pounds exactly.
36 exactly. Come on, baby. Wicked. The moral of this story is just persevere. Keep doing what you're doing and you will get them. So I'm over on Piraway now with the two champions of the of the trip. First of all, And, what have you had, mate?
Had a 30, 540s and a couple of 50s to round it off, and still a night to go.
Excellent. And two of the 40s were 49s.
49.
As well. Yeah. So a session of a lifetime. Almost.
Oh yeah.
So this is the first time you've been on Piraway,
Uh-huh.
yeah? So what would you say you've learned from fishing this lake?
I think I came here with a bit of a preconceived idea of putting a load of bait in, waiting for the fish to come, but I actually approached it more with my English style of fishing, little and often, and it's worked.
So just a few spodfuls over each
just
rod?
a few spodfuls at a time, a couple in the morning, a couple in the evening, and fishing for one bite at a time.
Right.
And it's worked.
Right. So what would you do differently if you came back on here next year?
I'd have to say pretty much nothing. I think I'd do exactly the same. I mean, it's worked for me this time. I'd do it again.
Right. And other than the baiting, what else are keys to the success, do you think?
I think having everything pinned down, the back leads, the flying back leads, and having the safe zone leaders with the tungsten inserts, pinning that down, that's been key. And with the running shocker rig as well, that's done the business.
Right, okay. And also I noticed you're only using one tiger nut on the hair.
Yeah,
you know,
small baits.
When people
baits.
come out on these trips and they have to have 3 and 4 tigers on because they're fishing for foreign fish.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just using one.
Always fish just small baits.
Right.
Yeah, the big ones take them as well.
Right, cool. And Bell, what have you had, mate?
I've had 3 40s up to 47 and a 57.
Very nice. And what would you? This is the first time you've been on here as well, isn't it?
First time, yeah, I've been on here too.
And what would you say you've learnt about it?
Well, I came over with the fact of like I'm going to put loads of boilies in the spot, loads of boilies, and just fish a boilie over it. But I've tried that and just nothing's happened from it.
Right. So how have you caught your fish then?
Well, after hearing that Andy's had them on single tigers, I mean, at first I was using 2 tigers, but I've just gone 1 tiger and basically cast a fish when they've been topping out or boshing out. I've just cast on their heads.
Right.
Apart from the 50, which I did actually put a lot of bait in over in a bay where there was no lines or nothing, and I kept that going for 3 days.
Not fishing it?
Not
no
even
fishing
a line,
rod there?
nothing at all.
Just bait going in?
Just bait, and I put quite a bit of bait out on it. And once temptation got too much, I put one on it, and within half hour I had a 57 on the bank. So
good skills. Good skills. That's good angling.
No,
and that's valid tips that everybody can put into their own fishing. You know, bait an area and don't fish it. You know, and you know, they're picking up single tigers when they're out there, so why not have a single one on the hair?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much, gents.
No problem.
Cheers.
Thank you.
And finally, we're back on Jolly, the big lake, in my swim with Damo, who's obviously fishing just round the corner for me, just to have a sort of look back at the week. So, you know, first of all, why do you think it's not fished as well as it fished last year?
Well, it's late in the year. The lake's had loads more pressure this year because it's obviously the venue's got a lot more publicity.
Yep.
A lot more people coming here. The weather's been really against us.
Yeah, I mean, it's, what is it, northeasterly now, isn't it?
You know, sunny, high pressure, constant high pressure. It's not good for fishing anywhere, is it?
No.
So, yeah, the weather I think is the biggest factor against us.
Yeah, and at this time of the year you can either have a brilliant week where it's low pressure, warm, westerly winds, you know, like we had last year, and this time, you know, it's like you say, high pressure, northerlies and easterlies. Yeah, it's just not the one, is it?
No, it's not. And we've had fog, mist, variable winds, just nothing of any substance, you know, nothing constant, is there?
Right. So, if you came back and fished this lake again, is there anything you'd do differently to what you've done this week?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you know, the methods you've employed, spodding accurately and all that sort of thing, the sort of fishing that we do all the time, and I'm using just primarily boilies, you know, and it's bringing the changes, you know, it's a bit different from the normal fishing.
Yeah.
Both methods work. I felt I fished really well. Baits have been tight, you know.
There's not much more you could have done, basically. They've just not been having it.
No, they're not having it. You know, I feel confident that if the fish had been able to caught them.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
And caught them from date the first night, second night, didn't catch one for next couple of nights, then had another one. You know, they're just not having it.
You're just not having it. I mean, I definitely learnt from you, where I come in after watching part 6 underwater again and again and again to edit it, and come in with really short hook links, thinking that's going to be the way I'm going to batter them from day one, and it didn't work because it's so silty out
Very
there.
soft, yeah.
And I've learnt for the hook link because you'd got a couple of bites, so it's always worth looking at what other people are doing, isn't it? If they're catching and you're not, you know, I've got no shame. I want to get on what anybody else is doing, you know. And since I've done that, I've started catching more fish. But I think, yeah, I've not baited in the first few days as accurately as I should have done, and I've spread things out too much. And in the last few nights, where I've concentrated all 3 rods in the same area and baited accurately, walked all my lines out and everything, that has produced more consistent action. I've not even fished today because, you know, we haven't had any bites really in the day other than one wanged out really long. I've just left the swim. I'll bait up before it gets dark, put all 3 rods out on the spot, and I'll probably get a couple more bites.
Yeah,
and it seems to be that from dark until midnight is the time, isn't it?
Yeah, 1 o'clock. I mean, that's when I've had action. I mean, when I first started, I put quite a lot of bait out. Second night, I put quite a lot of bait out. Felt that there was probably some bait left in the swim. Didn't put any out for the next couple of nights. Then put more bait out, quite a lot of bait, and caught another one. But I did it last night and did everything. So
yeah, so it's just been really inconsistent, basically.
It has, yeah.
You know. Steady, girl. As Mr. Hamidi says, I have unlocked the code of the lake. 2 bites tonight, 33.12, and this beastie, look at the scale pattern on this. What a way to finish the week. Come here, baby. 50 pounds and 2 ounces of stunning mirror carp. Look at that. Look at those scales, about 20, 50p's there stuck on the side of the fish. Oh. Okay, baby. Oh, these are heavy. Haven't re-spotted tonight. Just put 20 spodfuls out before it got dark, even though it's been really cold in the day. Didn't fish in the day at all. And put all 3 rods on the spot. And the old bloodworm dumbbells have done both bites, both on the middle rod. So I've just switched 2 rods to the dumbbells. Little fish sticks, as we've shown you in some of the other programs. Oh, they work everywhere else, and they're working here as well. Pucker. Look at that. That is what it's all about. 57 1/4, and it only takes a second to get a run, and we've got 4 hours left to go. And I've just heard a buzzer. That is a beast of a carp. Absolute beast. I do love it when a plan comes together. And no sooner have our camera crew got back into bed, I'm away again. The left-hand rod this time, swapped it over onto a dumbbell. No more bait in the swim at all, and I think that's been the key. 47 pounds 4 ounces. I've had the angling night of my life. 2 50s, a 40 and a 30. Look at these. Oh, he's going to go. I think because this lake's only 5 foot deep and most people have been using bait boats, where I'm spodding at night is scaring the fish away. So I've stopped spodding at night, just put it in just before dark and just carried on wanging out those little tiny tuna sticks with the dumbbells. And it's producing stunning fish like these. 4 fish to 2 rods in the same night. And we've still got a couple of hours to go. Pucker. And there we have it. 58 pounds 4 ounces of gorgeousness and a fantastic end to a fantastic session. Hopefully the information we've given you has given you loads of tips for getting some of these whackers on the bank, and I'm sure we'll be back next year for some more. Thanks very much for watching. Well done, chappie.
Cheers, mate.
For a chance to see more of the underwater footage shown in this series, check out the state-of-the-art underwater carp fishing series, available from all good tackle shops.
This episode of Thinking Tackle is in association with Daiwa Infinity Rods.